So a couple of months ago, I had one of the most bizarre and unforgettable experiences of my life while relaxing in a public park. It all started as a perfect sunny day, the kind where everything just seems to be right in the world. I had decided to take advantage of the beautiful weather and head to the park to unwind. The sky was a brilliant blue, not a cloud in sight, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of blooming flowers through the air. Birds were chirping harmoniously, children were playing joyfully in the distance, and there was this general feeling of peace and contentment that made everything feel just right. I found a comfortable spot on a bench under a large shady tree. With my phone in hand, I began scrolling through Instagram, catching up on friends' posts, and maybe daydreaming a bit. Occasionally, I'd look up to enjoy the scenery, people jogging, couples walking their dogs, and families having picnics. The park was bustling with life, yet there was a calmness to it that was incredibly soothing. Suddenly, my tranquil moment was interrupted by a strange noise. It sounded like glass breaking, which was unusual enough to snap me out of my reverie. Naturally, I looked up to see what was going on. At first, it didn't seem like a big deal. I spotted this guy, let's call him Jeff, hovering around one of those big metal trash bins scattered throughout the park. He looked a bit disheveled, but I didn't think much of it. My initial thought was that he might be rummaging for cans or something harmless like that. But Jeff had something else in mind, something far more troubling. Jeff pulled out a lighter from his pocket and started flicking it. At this point, I was curious, but not overly concerned. I mean, who hasn't fiddled with a lighter out of boredom? But things took a serious turn when he managed to set some paper on fire inside the bin. My mind raced with disbelief. Was he seriously trying to start a fire in the middle of a public park? As the flames started to grow, Jeff just stood there, watching his little inferno with a look of satisfaction. That's when I knew this was more than just a casual case of pyromania. I got up from the bench, heart pounding, and shouted, "Hey dude, what the heck are you doing?" Jeff glanced at me, looking genuinely surprised by my reaction. "Just warming things up," he said nonchalantly, as if this was the most normal thing in the world. But Jeff wasn't done yet. With the fire beginning to attract more attention, he decided to add to the chaos. He pulled out a spray can from his backpack, the kind used for graffiti, and started tagging the side of a park bench. I was floored. Not only was he setting fires, but now he was vandalizing the park as well. By now, the small crowd of park-goers, moms with their kids, elderly folks on their evening strolls, had started to take notice. People were staring, some in shock, others in fear, unsure of what to do. The peaceful park had turned into a scene of mayhem in a matter of minutes. The children, once carefree and playing, now clung to their parents, pointing and whispering. Joggers slowed down, some even stopping entirely to take in the spectacle. It was like a bubble of normalcy had burst, replaced by an escalating sense of urgency and confusion. Realizing that the situation was getting out of hand and needed to be handled by someone more equipped than me, I decided to call park security. My hands were shaking as I dialed the number, trying to stay calm and collected. Yeah, there's a guy setting fires and spray painting the place. You might want to hurry," I said into the phone, trying to keep my voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through me. As I waited for security to arrive, I kept an eye on Jeff, who seemed completely unfazed by the growing commotion around him. He continued to spray paint with a casual air, as if this was his usual afternoon activity. The fire in the bin was growing larger, the flames licking higher and higher, sending thick plumes of smoke into the air. The acrid smell of burning paper and plastic began to fill the park, mingling unpleasantly with the previously sweet fragrance of flowers. A few tense minutes later, I heard the distant sound of sirens. The park security team arrived, and as soon as Jeff saw them, he bolted. It was like watching an Olympic sprinter take off. The security guys gave chase, and for a moment, it felt like a scene straight out of a movie. People were watching, kids were pointing, and there I was, standing in the middle of it all, wondering if any of it was real. They chased Jeff through the park, weaving between trees, around playground equipment, and past bewildered parkgoers. The chase was intense, with Jeff darting through narrow spaces and leaping over obstacles with surprising agility. I followed at a safe distance, my heart pounding, feeling a mix of anxiety and disbelief. Eventually, the security team managed to corner Jeff near a fenced area of the park. They subdued him and cuffed his hands, finally bringing an end to his chaotic spree. The fire in the trash bin was quickly put out before it could spread and cause any serious damage. The once thick smoke began to dissipate and the park slowly began to return to its usual calm. But the surreal events of the day left a lingering sense of disbelief. Reflecting on it now, it's still hard to believe that a peaceful day in the park could turn into such a dramatic episode. It's one of those stories that sounds too wild to be true, but there I was, a front row witness to the whole ordeal. I stayed around for a bit longer, watching as the security team spoke with other witnesses and started cleaning up the graffiti. I even gave a statement about what I saw, still feeling a bit dazed by the whole experience. As I walked home from the park that day, I couldn't stop replaying the events in my mind. The sheer randomness of it all was baffling. One moment, I was enjoying a serene afternoon, and the next I was witnessing arson and vandalism in broad daylight. It made me think about how unpredictable life can be, and how important it is to stay vigilant, even in the most seemingly peaceful settings. So, that's the story of how a quiet afternoon turned into an unexpected adventure, involving fire, vandalism, and a chase through the park. Have you ever experienced something as crazy as that? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, stay safe and keep those park visits chill.